Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the St. Charles County Council for April 11th, 2022. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting this evening. We're going to start with an invocation by Jason Minershagen from Wentzville Baptist Church, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by John White. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand and remove your hats, please, gentlemen.
Lord God, you are supreme, and we thank you for showering us with your blessing and your grace. As we come into your holy presence here tonight, Lord, we pray that you would forgive each of us individually where we've broken your commands. Lord, we pray that you bless these proceedings and guide the hearts and minds of our leaders as they make decisions on our behalf. We pray that you lead them, Lord, and that you lead us into the presence of your Holy Spirit and give us wisdom in all that we think, say, and do. We pray and ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Here. Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Schneider.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Very good. Is there a motion with respect to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda and bring up Bill number 5052 and resolution number 2204.
Second.
Any objection? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. First, we'll take up the bill for final passage, which is Bill number 5052, naming Oglesby Park on West Meyer Road in Forestell. Would you please read the bill?
Bill number 5052, an ordinance to name the park property purchased on West Meyer Road in Forestell, Missouri for the development of a new county park within the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department, Oglesby Park, pursuant to Section 100.170 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri.
Any comments or discussions? Mr. Cronin?
I think this is just one of my favorite things to do in my 11 years on the council. Just so happened everything kind of fit into place real nice. And it's an amazing story about an amazing man. And our county executive has a lot of credit for that because he ordered up the history of Benjamin Oglesby. And then when he sent me the history of Benjamin Oglesby, it was just a remarkable man, what he encountered in his life and how he persevered and made something of himself. And after that, I reached out to the Wentzville mayor because I wanted to find out if there was any of his descendants in the community. And he got a hold of a lady at the Wentzville Historical Society, and that all brought us to Barbara Love, okay? And it's so wonderful to see you folks all here. It means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to y'all's family and the people of this county. And Barbara, your comments tonight to that reporter were excellent. You said this is a guiding moment for our children to see how one man overcomes such obstacles in his life to serve God, his country, and his family, and really make something of himself. And that's the message that this park's about. So anyway, welcome here. And it's going to be a beautiful park. It'll be open hopefully late summer, early fall. You're going to be real proud of it. And it'll be a great place for your family reunions down the road. So welcome to the council chambers, and thank you. Okay.
I would just say that I wish you'd been here last meeting when the bill was introduced. The county executive, Steve Ellman, who is out of town tonight and couldn't be here, gave us a really interesting presentation about the history of the property and the history of the family, and it was really impressive to hear what Mr. Oglesby accomplished during his life and what a wonderful family he raised. And so we are really proud and pleased that you could be here this evening for that. So at this point, is there any other comment? Yes, Mr. White.
I think it'd be appropriate to have a recap of that if our Parks Director would come up and recap the story.
Very good. Mr. Graham. Surprise.
County historian here. Well, Thank you. I don't think we have the PowerPoint loaded as we did tonight, our last meeting, but I will improvise. Benjamin Oglesby was born in 1825 in Virginia. By 1837, at the age of 12, he was taken from Virginia to Missouri to work on a farm out near Forestell, Missouri. Worked on the farm out there near I-70 for a number of years. It grew wheat, corn, and tobacco. Sometime during the Civil War, around 1864, he fled captivity and joined the Union Army, enlisting in St. Charles. He served in the 56th United States Colored Infantry, basically fighting and doing garrison work all up and down the Mississippi River down south. Participated in engagements throughout Arkansas. Basically was discharged in 1865, and then made his way back to the area, working first on a farm in Warren County, just across the border, and then eventually in 1871, purchasing 146 acres of property, which now is going to become Oglesby Park. Financed that through a $2,000 deed of trust, which indicated purchase, which is really neat. Paid off his property 6 years later in 1877, so pretty successful farmer. Farmed the land for 30 years, growing crops. It was active in the church and the community out there. His wife passed away in 1900, and he passed away a year later in 1901, leaving the property down through his children and down through his descendants. Just a really, really neat story on somebody who owned the property, that this is going to become a park. It's really interesting if you look at the 1875 Atlas plat map, and you can see Benjamin Oglesby owning this piece of ground, and the exact shape of his parcel is almost the exact shape of the park. So it's really kind of neat that almost, what is it, from 1875 to today, I'm not good at math, that's why I did history, it didn't change. So it's really neat. It's going to be a beautiful park, and we're excited to bring it into our system. So.
And when do you think the park will be open for visitors?
We really hope that it's going to be open here late summer, early fall. Obviously, it's a crazy world right now with supply chain issues, but we're going to move forward on it, and it's going to be a beautiful park.
And I'm sure you'll be telling us more when that happens.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely be updating you on the process, so.
Right. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Good job. Any other comments before we call the bill and vote on the bill?
Chairwoman, I had some public comments, and somehow you amended it and put it before the public comments.
Yeah, you can speak in public comments.
Yeah, you can speak during public comments.
Why can't before you pass the bill?
No,
No.
I asked the council to waive the rules and allow
No,
people to
sir.
speak before the bill's passed.
I don't- There's no motion to do that, so we'll proceed with the reading the bill. So if you will please read the title and call the roll.
Bill number 5052, an ordinance to name the park property purchased on Westmire Road in Forestell, Missouri for the development of a new county park within the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department, Oglesby Park, pursuant to Section 100.170 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri. Councilmember Cronin?
yes,
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
The bill passes unanimously. And in conjunction with this, we're going to take up a resolution number 22-04, recognizing Benjamin Oglesby and his descendants. Donna, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution number 22-04, sponsored by council as a whole, a resolution recognizing the Oglesby family as descendants of Benjamin Oglesby, after whom Oglesby Park is named. Whereas the St. Charles County Council is pleased to recognize and honor citizens for outstanding achievements, and whereas Benjamin Oglesby was born around 1825 in the state of Virginia, and records indicate he came to Missouri with his enslaver, Marshall Bird, who was a farmer, and they settled in property that sits to the southeast of the park along Meyer Road, Benjamin being enslaved with 7 other people who worked on the 260-acre farm in sections 18 and 19 of Township 47, Range 1 East. And whereas in 1864, Benjamin Oglesby ran away from his enslaver and joined the 56th United States Colored Infantry Regiment, where he served in the Civil War until he was honorably discharged from the Union Army and reunited with his wife Martha, who was also known as Patsy, and their 5 children. After his emancipation and the end of the war, he returned to the area and ultimately purchased the proposed park property. And whereas Benjamin Oglesby died in 1901 and is buried in the African-American Smith Chapel Cemetery, which is located approximately 1 mile from the proposed park property. And whereas Benjamin Oglesby left the property to his children and the property stayed in the Oglesby family into the mid-20th century. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council hereby honors the Oglesby family for their long-standing history in the St. Charles County community.
Very good. Mr. Cronin, did you wish to lead some discussion?
Yes, I'd like Miss Barbara Love to come up and say a few words about their family, and then I'd like you as well, sir. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. First, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for honoring such a man that he went through a lot of things, but he kept the faith. He kept the faith, and he leaves a legacy for not only his descendants, but for the kids to come in the future, for the present and the future. But this means so much to us for you to name the park after Benjamin Oglesby. This comes full circle for us because we were talking about the Smith Douglas schoolhouse that sits about 2 or 3 miles down the road. And some of the Oglesby children went to that schoolhouse. And you go down the road and you come to the park where you're going to name the park. And my mother, Cecilia Luckett Crooms, was an Oglesby. Her mother was an Oglesby, which this is my uncle. And they lived on that farm. They lived where you were going to have the park at. So to find out that they were going to do something with the schoolhouse, the Douglas Schoolhouse, to preserve it and make it a museum, that was really phenomenal to me. But then to get a call from Joe to find out that you all were considering naming the park after our family, Oglesby Park, I couldn't believe when I went down to the farm to find out this is where my mother was raised. I can't tell you how humbled I am. Not only humbled, but I thank God for you for having the thought and having just looking at Benjamin's story and wanting it to go on, his legacy to go on and being in this park. My hope is that this park will, when they put the school on there, on those grounds, that kids will be able to come to the park, come to the schoolhouse, and be able to hear the stories of not only Benjamin Oglesby, but of what other enslaved people went through. And then the legacy of the park will go on and not just be just an ordinary park, but it will preserve memories and a lot of future things for the kids to come up to know that they can be whatever they want to be. I have to say this, that I've been talking to my grandson about this park and about Benjamin. He's 8 years old. So telling him the story about Benjamin and what he went through being a slave, how he came back, bought property, he said, Nana, I can be anything I want to be. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like Benjamin, he kept the faith. He knew no matter what he went through, being a slave, going to the war, fighting in the Civil War, joining the Army, the colored Army, he knew that once he got back, don't give up yet. Keep fighting and leave a legacy for your children. And so he bought the land, and now he leaves the legacy for all of us here tonight. I know I talk a lot, but the thing that I want to say most is that we appreciate and we are humbled by what you have done here tonight. We thank you from the Oglesby family, from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you, and when you see this park, it's just going to be more than just your average park for us especially. And I'll let my uncle do it talking because he does just as much as I do. Stanley Luckett.
Well, I'm not going to talk that much, but
Would you state your name for us, sir?
we just want to thank you.
What is your name,
Thanks
sir?
for having the Stanley Luckett.
Stanley.
I'm a great-grandson, and my mother was her grandfather, my great-grandfather. But before I say anything, can I just let Roland Oglesby stand there? Because we do have an Oglesby in the house. Stand up, Roland. He's also, he's a he's a great-grandson. My mother and his father was sisters and brothers, and they all had 6 children. And I think Roland, the only one left in his family. Roland, the only Oglesby left, so he has a lot of nieces and nephews here, right? He has brothers, great-grandkids and stuff, so there are some Oglesbys in the house here tonight.
Would you mind if we had them stand?
I was just going to mention that, yeah. Please, everyone, please stand up.
Tonight?
And I know there are so many people we need to thank, but I especially want to thank Steve
Elman.
Altman. And of course, Joe. I know Joe did a lot of hard work. Steve had some money, I guess. But Joe, I know you was working hard for us, and I met so many people out a few other people out in Forestdale, and I know all of you worked really hard on trying to get this together. It meant a lot to us to see this come together because we didn't quite understand how the Oglesby were able to do this. Now it makes a lot of sense to us to see that our great-grandfather was able to go in service, come back, and buy that farm out there. And I still don't know how he did it. But it's remarkable that he could do something like that. So I would like to thank all of you for having us here tonight, and I'll close. Thank you.
We're honored to have you all here.
My name is Roland Oglesby, and my father was Charles Henry Oglesby. He was a great-grandson of Benjamin Oglesby.
He was the grandson.
Grandson.
He was
yeah.
the grandson of Benjamin. You the great-grandson.
Yeah.
He's the grandson.
I was really surprised. I never could figure this out. When I heard it, it seemed like a movie or something. You know, you listen to the story, what he went through, how he got over, and was able to get his family, to raise them, and leave a legacy for us to live by. And I thank Benjamin Oglesby.
As you can see, we're humble.
There's one other person that we need to thank, and that's the historian. I don't know how they came up with this, but it had to be a lot of work done on to come up with that information. So whoever did that did a great job. All of you did a great
Yeah.
job.
It
So
was,
thank
it
all
was
of you.
staff of the county, and they did do a good job. It's amazing.
It's
that
amazing.
The records were
really
there.
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
here. We're going to vote on the resolution now if we've concluded our discussion. Is there any further discussion, Mr. Cronin? Anyone else?
No, I think they said it all.
They did say
What
it
I'd
all.
like to do is, we're going to vote on the resolution. We have copies for your family members to take home with you. I'll pass them out for you. And then if you got a second, we'd like to get, I think, all of the ancestors of Benjamin Oglesby, if you'd come up the front here, we'd like to take your picture, because I think Benjamin's probably watching from above, and he'd like to see all his families together tonight, okay? So with that, let's go ahead and pass the vote.
Okay, John, would you please read the title and call the roll?
Resolution number 22-04, a resolution recognizing the Oglesby family as descendants of Benjamin Oglesby, after whom Oglesby Park is named. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
The resolution is passed. Thank you, everyone, for that. And then, so we're going to have the Oglesby family come up and take some pictures. After that, we'll just take a brief 3 or 4 minute recess so we can let them go on their way, and then we're going to resume with the regular agenda. So if you folks want to come on up and get ready to smile.
There should be light all against there.
Yeah, Joe, you want to stand up there too? Yeah. Yeah. You're so eloquent. That was amazing.
we took.
No, you were great. You were really good.
This happened. I mean, come on. Put those little guys in front.
Oh,
We got the tall guy in the back.
good luck trying to get a wide lens on you. We have some shy people back there that don't want to come up. They don't want to come. Now's your chance.
One more.
Oh, we got one more in. Hang on.
He's got a song in his head, you can tell. Oh yeah, he's got it going on.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing. Don't keep it. Yeah. No, it's No, you don't know.
Yeah, they don't have to stick around.
Mr. Cronin has it. Yeah. Joe has them all and he'll hand them all out. You can go off, unless you want to.
You guys are free to leave if you want to.
It was a big to-do to get you all here. Well, he said 35 were going to come and 7 couldn't. So we're great. We're not Thank you. It's nice to meet you. Keep up the therapy. You'll be back doing that. Oh, snap.
That's a pretty cool story.
I got it. That's amazing that so many of those folks still live around here.
Well, I think
It is. It's really nice. That is cool.
I hope we have enough.
yeah, just leave them out there. No, they don't go right ahead.
Okay, we're going to return to the agenda tonight. The next item on the agenda is Bill number 5055. Donna, would you please read the title?
Bill number 5055, requested by Michael Herbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 21-21 for a private school to Lynn P. Melson as trustee for the Lynn P. Melson and Tamara T. Melson Revocable Qualified Spousal Trust property owners.
Okay, so this is a bill for introduction and public comment. Mr. Cronin, I think this is in your district as well? Oh, Mr.
No, the
Brazel.
school's in Mr.
Oh, okay,
Brazel's
Mr.
district.
Brazel, I'm sorry. So with respect to public comment, any individual, hi, Mr. Meyer, we're going to have you speak first, but I just wanted to let anybody who wants to speak at a public comment. I'll read that later? Okay, okay. Oops, sorry. Yep, sorry. Okay, Robert.
Robert, I will swear you in.
Sure,
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes.
Okay, you want to tell us about this conditional use permit, please?
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'll try to speak into the microphone. My name is Robert Myers. I'm the Planning and Zoning Division Director for St. Charles County. This application, approval of this bill would authorize a conditional use permit for a private school on the south side of Binney Road. You may be familiar with a polo ground that's on the south side of Binney Road. This is just west of that property, a few parcels. The proposal is a private school for about 20 students, and the applicant states that the intended students are children of family members and employees of the applicant's business. The improvements proposed include a school building, and also behind that, what I'll call a soccer practice field, an athletic field. Now, athletic fields immediately raise a concern about impacts for neighbors. This athletic field is proposed for the students there for practice. It's not intended to have bleachers, loudspeakers, concession stands, and that sort of thing. So in terms of land use impacts, I really see this as accessory to the school itself, the practice soccer field. And actually, and mentioning land use impacts, the concept plan that's in your packet shows a vegetative landscape buffer that's along the eastern and southern property lines, and that's in order to buffer the views from nearby residences. This is a 5-acre parcel it's actually within a residential subdivision called Freedom Ranch subdivision, but the entrance will come off of Binney Road. So the entrance will be off of a public roadway. It'll have a proper entrance for a school, have sufficient parking as well for school. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on March 16th. They took public testimony, and following which they recommended by a vote of 6 in favor and 2 denial that the county council approve this bill with certain specific conditions that are meant to address the conditional use permit criteria of section 405.510B of the county code. And I won't repeat those criteria, but there's analysis of those criteria within the packet that's before you today. Planning and Zoning Division staff likewise recommends approval. And I would also like to recognize the Melsons. I'm not sure if it would be Patrick Melson here tonight, but
Is the applicant present? Yes, sir, you want to come up? Sure. I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Would you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, my name is Sean Melson on behalf of the Melson Trust.
Okay. And does anyone have any questions for Mr. Melton? Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
On the soccer field, you say, are you going to have outdoor light? I know it says you have outdoor lightings, but did you take that out of the plan, or?
No, we did not take that out of the plan.
Okay, so you say that you're going to, it says from the hours from, the lights can be on to 11 p.m.?
Yes.
Is that a typical, that seems kind of late. I mean, I'm just asking.
Honestly, I mean, that depends on the age of the students, but typically I would expect those lights to be off a little sooner than 11.
Okay. This thing isn't working. That's all right. That's all right, I'll take it. Okay, I wanted to ask that question. Then
Sure.
you got deflection, you got the deflection shields on them and so forth, I see.
Correct.
Okay.
It'll be my property that is adjacent to the 5 acres. I own 10 acres, and I'll have the lights off sooner than 11 most
Well,
nights,
isn't
for
it,
sure.
your whole family's in that area, correct?
Correct. I own
Yeah.
10 acres, my sister owns 10, my parents own 25.
I got you, okay.
So, sir, can I ask you, from what I understand, this is a private school, and you are not believing there would be more than 20 students and 3 teachers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think one of the conditions that was recommended by staff was that there be no more than 50 students. There were also some conditions about putting up maybe some landscaping or screening, and also about the number of parking spaces, as well as the light restrictions that Mr. Brazel just indicated. Are you willing to comply with all of those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And how soon do you think the school can be up and running? I know you have a building planned for that.
Sure. We'd like to have the building erected by the end of the year.
And these are all children of you and the people who work there?
At the moment, it'd just be within my family, which
Uh-huh.
resides in the subdivision.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, during COVID, we lost some good employees due to kids not being able to go to school, so
Yeah.
we'd like to remedy any future crisis like that.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Melson or for Robert?
I think the way that I understand this is, the way it's starting is Pat just wanted to make sure that he had a place for his grandkids to go to school, and he's going to kind of work it out with the family first and get through the bugs, and then allow the employees' kids to come there. So I think that's why they were talking about not having more than 30 at the time, because he said, we're going to start with that. And it was my understanding that he was saying, it's called a soccer field on the plan, but it's really just a play area for the kids to have basically a rec place to play at the moment. And there's no plans for soccer tournaments or things like that, according to what I'd seen. It's basically just trying to make sure that you could keep the kids in school all the time, no matter what would happen. So
Absolutely.
it sounds like a really cool venture to be able to put together.
Thank you.
Okay, Robert, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
I can make a clarification.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
There was a question about the hours for lighting, and what's before you in your suggested conditions in the bill is no lighting of the athletic field between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So county staff suggested some conditions to the Planning and Zoning Commission, but at the commission, there was some refinement of those conditions with input from the applicant. So what's before you was taking into consideration the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations and the applicant's okay on those. And then you mentioned, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but, I totally,
Wasn't the, I was told that it was moved to 9 p.m. It says 11 p.m., so I was just curious about that. Not that it's going to be an issue, but it would be if it was Tuesday night and they got the lights on until 10:30 or 11 o'clock.
well, the condition 4, and what I'm reading is no lighting shall take place between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m.
So this needs to be changed then. It says 11 p.m.
Okay, let me
At
make sure I'm
6
not
a.m.,
missing
I think,
something.
too.
It's 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The bill that I'm looking at says 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., so let me look at the other information.
That was a recommendation at the Planning and Zoning meeting.
Okay. All right. Oh, and your point, I'm sorry, about the number of students. So when this was applied for, they said they wanted to have 20 students. County staff thinking that, well, what if they go over 21? Is that going to be a violation? So we were trying to suggest something that would allow them a little bit of flexibility. We suggested 50, but Planning and Zoning Commission came back and worked with the applicant and came up with 30 instead.
Okay.
So what's in here is a maximum of 30 students.
Okay, any other questions for Robert? Okay. We'll now open this matter up for public comment. Any individual who's supporting or opposing the application is invited to share their comments with the council. Council staff will call you forward one at a time. Each speaker that has submitted a comment card, and upon the conclusion of the individual comments, please remain at the podium for any follow-up questions that we might have. We encourage you to keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and if another speaker has already made the point that you wish to make, you can just come up and say that you agree rather than make an additional comment if you prefer to do that. So are there any comments on this?
Arnie Dienhoff.
Arnie Dienhoff. Okay, Mr. Dienhoff, you can come forward if you would, please. I swear you in, please.
Oh, sure, yes.
Do
You are,
I-
oh,
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes, I do. Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienhoff, County Public Advocate. And I testified at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I reviewed the information for tonight's council meeting, and there definitely are some problems. The record is incorrect, and that kind of came out in some of the testimony. I'm going to rely on Mr. Hollander. I'm not sure if you were there. Were you there?
Training, I wasn't there. So.
He was absent, okay. So I want to testify and make sure that we get this right, because your packet is definitely incorrect and definitely wrong, and it's definitely wrong for the public to come up and make comments because the actual facts are not in the bill nor in the staff summary. They're incorrect. So basically, there's a lot to fit in these 5 acres, and there definitely needs to be a buffer to protect the adjoining property owners. As you could see, I don't know if staff can pull up the property site preliminary plat of the site improvements, but it's a lot to fit in on that small 5 acres. Now, there's going to be a number of state regulations because this is actually going to become a school. Number one, there's going to have to be a sprinkler, which will be mandated by the Office of Missouri Fire Marshal. It's a mandatory requirement due to the number of children that the school will be having. We want to ensure that the health, safety, and public safety of all of our children are the number one priority. Since Mr. Hollander said that he wasn't at the Planning and Zoning as the representative of the council, there were compromises that I recall that are errors in your packet. First of all, the applicant agreed, along with Planning and Zoning Commission, who made an amendment from the staff's recommendation of 50 students to 30 students and 3 staff members or teachers. So that would be a total of 33 people to occupy that building. If they wanted more in the future or wanted to make an addition, they'd have to come back for another conditional use permit. Also, what was of compromise was there should be no storage of vehicles, boats, or trailers. Only vehicles that are registered in the name of the school according to the Missouri Department of Revenue. That'd be like a school van or school bus that is owned by the entity of the school. Also, Planning and Zoning made an amendment to the applicant and staff's recommendation to the 11 o'clock p.m. of the lighting, and that was to 9 p.m., and I think that was covered by Mr. Myers. But in your packet, there's all kinds of different numbers, and I want to ensure that the public testimony and the public record is correct. Now, also what was agreed upon was a landscape buffer, and that's a type 2 commercial type grade, which I'm in full favor of. And I also want to bring up some issues about the roadway situation. As you all know, when Mr. Bush came here for his microbrewery, that was a major stumbling block, was the improvements needed for the safety of Benny Road. As you all know, it jags like in a Z-type, curve-type mechanism. And I want to ensure or make sure that John Grefshew, who is over our transportation department and our county road board with a county transportation manager, that they make this a priority to fix this Z curve on Benny Road for the health and safety of these children. That's our number one priority. Besides that, Madam Chairwoman, those are all my comments. I think it's a great addition. It's a great idea. However, I don't think it's going to happen because of the state fire marshal requirement of the sprinkler system. That could be very detrimental and very costly to this project. And I don't think there just should be any free passes from the state or from the county on this issue. I'm not budging on that. Our children need to be the number one priority of their safety. And I want to make sure that these buildings are properly sprinkled. Those are my comments, Madam Chairwoman. I'll entertain any questions.
Does council or staff have any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you, Mr. Dino. Are there any other speakers?
Final speaker.
So with discussion of the bill, then, Mr. Meyer, it looks like there need to be some cleaning up of the bill with respect to the hours of the lighting and the maximum number of students.
I was just reviewing the bill, and it looks like what was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it says
Okay.
no lighting between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., for instance. It also says a maximum of 30 students. So the bill that's before you does reflect the outcome of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, all right. So are there any comments with respect to those issues? Mr. Elam?
Mr. Meyer, I believe that at Planning and Zoning, they talked about that the building would either need to have a sprinkler system or a firewall.
Right.
And a firewall would offset the need for a sprinkler system if they built that in the middle of the building. Was that true?
Yes, that was the statement that was made, and we weren't trying to provide a definitive yes or no what the requirements would be, because Building Code Enforcement Division is really head of that. But we wanted to provide a heads up so there would be no surprises down the road when people apply for permits, that there will need to be, as I understand it, either a firewall at some point in the building or sprinklers, one or the other, because of the size of the building. And that would be due to the St. Charles County's fire code.
And if I remember correctly, Mr. Melson was aware of that since he has a construction company, and he was aware of the firewall that needed to be built, because that was at the discussion there as well.
Right. I mean, again, we weren't trying to provide an impediment for the outcome of the conditional use permit. We were simply trying to bring it to people's attention, so there'd be no surprises.
Okay. Mr. Cronin?
I read the minutes for the planning and zoning, and I read what you guys put together too. And I think the community development did a good job adequately addressing all the concerns at the planning and zoning meeting. So, you know, everything that was said was not correct, I think is correct. I think you did a good job with it. And as far as the comments about this not happening, firewalls aren't that expensive to build. So I look forward to the school. Sounds like a pretty interesting concept, and pretty convenient for your family, having the school right next to where you all live too. So good from there.
Okay. Any other comments from staff or questions of staff? Okay, thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Sure.
Okay, so that will conclude the public comment portion of the conditional use permit. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. Anyone who wishes to make a public comment should have made a comment card already. You'll be called up one at a time. There's a 3-minute time limit. The clock up here will tell you when your time is up, and then we'll thank you for your comments and ask you to please be seated. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Kelly Waite.
I'm for bill number 5056.
Okay.
So you want to wait until the bill is called?
Well, this
What are we writing down?
You
this
can
is
come
your
up
time
and-
to speak.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm talking about bill number 5056.
Okay.
That's the Frymouth property. My name's Kelly Waite. I live at 2083 Eisenbath Road. That's right there in O'Fallon. The corner of my lot is right across the street from the Eisenbath entrance to this Frymouth property. My wife and I love living where we are. I'm very opposed to this rezoning of 71 acres of this 390-acre plot. The St. Charles County Master Plan, page 5.2, talks about prime farmland area north of O'Fallon between Highway 61 and Highway 79. It says that the impacts of wastewater and stormwater runoff are considerable environmental concerns for St. Charles County residents. As more homes are built and commercial sites are developed, great care should be taken to protect water quality in our watersheds and to reduce stormwater damage to property and human life. In my view, that's why they set this area at a 5-acre minimum. So the question is, why change to 3 acres? I would propose you not change to 3 acres unless it's for the greater good. So first, who would benefit? I think the owner would benefit because it'd be more money. The developer would benefit because it'd be more houses. And third, St. Charles County finances might benefit as well. But quite frankly, guys, that's such a small impact to the overall St. Charles County budget, it's not even rounding of a decimal point. So what about the folks who are going to lose? The main folks who are going to lose are the ones who live there. More houses and traffic could cause substantial negative impacts for well waters. What studies have been done to make sure the wells could handle these more houses? What about more traffic? Clearly more traffic is going to come, put more pressure on the streets. The farmers, it's going to put more pressure on the farmers for getting around that area with their tractors and their equipment. Water runoff. What studies have been done to make sure water runoff is not going to be a problem? Schools, haven't heard anything about schools. The other concern is if you approve for 71 acres, why wouldn't you just go ahead and approve for all 390? I mean, once the areas are developed, there's no turning back. So the rural charm and nature of this area is at risk. Please vote no for this zoning request to lower the 5-acre minimum to 3. This rezoning request does not help the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Raymond Gerard.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here on the same bill as the prior gentleman. Bill's number 5056, 5058, rezoning about, right now, 71 acres of property from 5-acre zoning to 3-acre zoning. Planning Commission considered this and voted 6-2, as you will see in your materials or have seen, to deny this request. That was their recommendation. Staff report that you have notes that the property to the north is a subdivision to the north that has 3-acre zoning, which is the requested zoning, and there's a subdivision to the south that has 3-acre zoning. But there's a big difference. Property to the north, including the Birdsong subdivision, is a total of about 280 acres. There's 71 lots on there right now. It's a little under 4 acres per lot average. Property to the south, Kirstein Farms, has 118 acres, 22 lots. That's about 4.2 acres per lot. This rezoning request to go from 5 to 3 acres also comes with a preliminary plat approval request. And that preliminary plat shows their intentions for this property. Well, at least 71 acres, but you would presume, I think it's a fair assumption, that the same ratios that they apply to that 71 acres, which is their current request, would cover the rest of the property. Well, that current request has 22 lots, only on 71 acres. That's 44% less land. And the average is right around 3 acres on the nose. You apply that out to the entire property of which this 71 acres is a part. You got 390 acres. That leaves you with 367 lots in an area that is still very rural. 367 lots on Framuth Road, which is totally incapable right now of handling this. The testimony before the Planning and Zoning Commission included, concerns about drainage and, septic systems out there and so forth. So, there was good reason why the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that this be denied. And in its current form, I think this proposal should be. The density here is just way too high. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Jen Olson.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Jen Olson. I may go over by like 15 seconds, but I would really appreciate a little bit of wiggle room. I do not trust our election systems, and I'm not alone. People all around our county took screenshots of Wi-Fi connections for the equipment at the polling places last week. Do we or do we not connect our election equipment to the internet on Election Day? I'll answer that. Last week on Election Day during voting hours, a poll worker in our county looked up his name and the names of the 3 other poll workers on the electronic poll book. All 4 of the poll workers had already voted absentee since they were to work at the polls on Election Day. The poll pad did not show that they already voted absentee. The poll worker immediately called Kurt Barr's office to notify him of the issue, and the worker was informed that it was probably due to a bad Wi-Fi or cell connection, due to the fact that the poll pads needed to be connected to the internet in order to populate the accurate voter info from the main election authority database. The poll worker was basically told to let it go, and there was nothing Kurt Barr could do. The poll workers could have voted again if they wanted to, or a poll worker could have alerted their family and friends that voted absentee that they could come cast another ballot. Hypothetically, if I were a bad actor, I would collect pieces of mail from the community I'm targeting, maybe even implant USPS, water, or electric company workers into my plan. Then I'd hack the poll books on Election Day to see who has and hasn't voted. Then I would pass out the utility bills and pictures of the signatures to my minions. My minions would then go to the polling place and vote using that piece of mail as their ID. Why are we using poll pads that have to be connected to the internet? I thought our election equipment was offline during voting hours. Why didn't the poll workers and the public know that the poll pads needed Wi-Fi or a cell connection? Some of the polling places have horrible cell reception and don't have working Wi-Fi, like the one the gentleman called from. Paper poll books can't be hacked. If it wasn't broken, why are we spending millions trying to fix it? Why are we putting so much trust into a system with so many issues? Why are we blindly trusting that nobody will do anything malicious? Hackers, poll workers, whoever. The public isn't naive. The corruption both within our governments and society at large is becoming more and more obvious. I'm not accusing our election authority of malintent. I'm asking for an explanation. And I'm also asking that we do away with the electronic poll pads going forward and return to using paper poll books. The voice of we the people is the foundational element and the highest authority in this country, and the integrity of our election should be number 1. Without the adherence to the authentic voice of the people, the entire country will become disenfranchised from our role in governing ourselves.
Thank you, ma'am.
And what
Please be
that leads
seated.
to, nobody in this room wants to experience.
Thank you.
Tony Bethman.
Excuse
Good
me.
evening.
Thank you for your time. I'll be very brief. So real quick, we've been talking about the River Point development right down the street here. The county, city, state, everybody's got a little stake in it. The county's got $7 million in it. So basically, all we're trying to find out is when the city turned in its county road board application for economic development, they turned in the application back in April of 2020. And in that application, it was about $66 million for the project. And about $25 million was going to come from the federal government. Well, the federal government did not give them that $25 million build grant. It didn't happen. They went for it twice. Both times it was denied. We're trying to figure out where they're going to get the $25 million. That's what we're trying to figure out right here. This is just a transparency project. So this is what they signed in February of 2020. This is the application they turned into the county road board and the county council approved and the county executive signed. The applicant, the city, acknowledges, the city of St. Charles, that it has disclosed and included, oh, come on, phone, and included as part of this application all information on any special taxing districts such as community improvement districts, neighborhood improvement districts, or transportation development districts, tax credits or abatements, public financing, including but not limited to the use of tax increment financing, and any other use of public funds planned for the project outlined here. They were supposed to disclose all this back in 2020. The latest is they're using $6 million worth of Prop P funds to finance this chicken and pickle lot. They're using $6 million in Prop P, public financing funds, okay? That's the trigger. The applicant further acknowledges that if it should elect to pursue other public financing, that election terminates this application and any approval of it, and shall require its resubmission with disclosure of the additional public financing sought. All I'm asking is that we find out how much the city is giving Clayco, because they're giving them millions and millions of dollars. We'd just like to find out how much they're giving to them before they give it to them. There should be a finite amount of money that they're giving to Clayco. Let's find out how much it is, have them resubmit the proposal. I yield back the balance of my time, reserve the right to have a great day.
Arnie Dienoff.
Thank you very much, members of council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, running for County Executive in August. Thank you to the 28,423 voters, or the 71.87% of voters, for passing Prop R. It's a transportation half-cent sales tax for another 10 years. It's a great investment. Bill number 5052, which I really wanted to talk to you about before it was passed, Oglesby Park, is a very fitting tribute. Patsy and Ben really deserve this. We need to honor our county residents who were oppressed, mistreated, and discriminated against. What a great history lesson and learning moment county parks can capitalize on and teach all of us that slavery was wrong, inhumane, and unacceptable in our society. Ben served as a prisoner for 34 years, and I'm sure none of you would like to serve as a prisoner for 34 years. Now on the consent agenda, we have Forestdale Park Phase 1, $7.4 million. Is now the time, with the cost of materials and labor up, to do another park project? I ask you all. Travel demand model update on the consent agenda, $100,000. Why are we not doing this with staff and doing it in-house? Strategic highway safety, $461,000. Why are we not doing this program with staff and doing it in-house? We have a bunch of people on staff that we pay lots of money that are in the transportation department. The work zone data exchange, $148,000. Why is staff not doing the work with existing staff and doing it in-house? A plea to Councilmember Hammond and all council members. No more secrets. Tell us what happened in our county jail with the death 7 weeks ago. I requested a simple document request electronically, no copies, for towing licenses and County Board of Equalization from 2014 to 2016. Electronic PDF files that are already on file, and Rory O'Sullivan, the gentleman right there, who treats me like dirt in a creepy way and acts like he hates me, with the okay from his bosses, Steve Ellman, and the $200,000 Joanne Lycum as Director of Administration, want to shake me down for $162.77 in a March 31st email. It's shameful and discriminatory when I'm asking for something very simple, and Councilman Hammond knew exactly what I was asking for that's already in the files, and he's trying to make a mole out of a hill. And he wants to hide some files from disclosure under section 43.540, the criminal record check information. Are we hiring criminals? Are we giving licenses to towing operators who are criminals? And chapter 610.02114, closed
Mr.
meetings.
Dienoff.
This needs to stop, members of the council.
Thank you. Next speaker,
That's the final speaker.
the final speaker. I know Mr. Ellman isn't with us this evening. Is there any report from his office?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Next item would be the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Bills for final passage, bill number 5053. Would you please read the bill?
Bill number 5053, an ordinance authorizing execution of a trail license agreement and ingress, egress, and parking easement agreement between St. Charles County and the Conservation Commission of the State of Missouri.
Is there any comment on this bill? Mr. Cronin?
I'd like to also, again, thank Ryan Graham for his work on this, and basically, we're going to be able to expand the Bluffs Park by, with no charge to county residents by acquiring this easement from the Conservation Department. But I'm also going to tell Ryan, you got a lot of work ahead of you, brother, because you got 2 parks in development right now, and those folks that were just here expecting that one done late by summer, fall. So keep up the good work and appreciate your work on this Bluffs project too.
All right, very good. If there's no further discussion, please read the title and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing execution of a trail license agreement and ingress, egress, and parking easement agreement between St. Charles County and the Conservation Commission of the State of Missouri. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Bill number 5053 passes. Bills for introduction, bill number 5056.
Bill number 5056, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 22-02.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I've got some information on this I'd just like to pass through, okay?
Yes, sir.
So there's first of all, there's a slide of the entire property that they just flashed a second ago. I'd like to get brought back up. I think this is important to show. The landowner reached out to me after the planning and zoning meeting, and I watched the planning and zoning meetings on this. Essentially, the planning and zoning voted against the rezoning 6-2, but then they came back with a little more information and voted 4-4 for the development plan. So they split on development plan. But I think a lot of the stuff that came out in planning and zoning wasn't fully explained to the folks there, and I want to take this moment to explain it. We're not talking about the entire 400 acres. That would be the center of the grayish area. We're talking about 71 acres at the top right corner of it, okay? There were a lot of concerns at the meeting about the woods, tree lines getting destroyed, the impact to wildlife. Well, the tree lines on the northern part of the property are remaining, and the large woods on the upper left side of the property are will stay. Additionally, this sits right between 2 3-acre developments, and the owner is a large landowner in that area. He has no plan to develop the rest of that immediately. A lot of the concerns dealt with attachment to Eisenbath Road, but Eisenbath Road is 2,000 feet away to the far left corner of that. So it's going to be doubtful that this will connect to Eisenbath Road in our lifetime. There was also concerns about the wells and what the impact this would have on the water table. The largest well producer in the area is called Flynn Drilling, and I've dealt with them many times on other issues going back to my alderman days. And I call them and ask them if there's any evidence of more 3-acre subdivisions causing impact where folks lose their water. And they said that's not the case. They said usually if they re-drill a well, it's because it's either 40, 50 years old, or it's because the wells are too close together. On 3-acre tracts, they're far enough apart that's not a problem. Traffic, the applicant there's concerns about traffic brought up at planning and zoning. The applicant has dedicated an additional 30-foot strip along Freymuth Road on the right side of the above map. And it's always been the policy of the county, when the traffic demand is there, we'll have the property dedicated to us to do improvements to Freymuth Road down the road. other than that, there was concerns about drainage, and the next slide will show drainage for the property. And most of the drainage from the property is staying on the 400 acres, or it's going in existing valleys. There's a picture in your packet of this ground. It's just a real typical rolling farm field. And it's typical of a lot of 3-acre developments in that area, being the fact that both Flint Hill, Josephville, and St. Paul all allow 3-acre lots. The county allowed 3-acre lots in this area to an ag zoning until there was, I pulled up the bill, actually Donna pulled the bill up for me. It was in '06 with an ordinance sponsored by John White. And it was in response to development concerns in Mr. Brazel's district in the southwest portion, where they changed for agricultural zoning, it had to go to 5 acres. But it also clearly spells out in this bill from '06 that 3-acre lots were also desirable, but had to be changed to RR zoning, which is what this applicant seeks to do. I read the master plan carefully on this. This is not in the White Branch district. The actual master plan calls for developments of no more than 1 home per acre. So I think it's consistent with the master plan. And I think that's everything that I need to tell you about this. There's more in the packet, okay? But this information wasn't presented at planning and zoning, and I think that what I've just said is adequately, address the concerns of the folks that had immediate concerns. The subdivision closest to it, the one at Birdsong Meadows, I did talk to a few people that live there. Interesting, none of those folks seem to be very concerned about it. A family called Vogelgesang actually farmed this area and owned a lot of this land for many generations, and a lot of them still live there. And actually, Dorothy Vogelgesang put a letter of support for this project. So that's pretty much everything I have on it. Okay.
Any other discussion concerning this bill? Yes, Mr. Brazel.
I just want a couple comments. Back in '06, me and John worked on changing to 5 acres, and it's not only because of southwest St. Charles County, which does have a little different soil conditions, but it's also the growth of our county, where a lot of folks, like in St. Paul or Defiance or Augusta, they like living in small towns, and they want to have, we call it small town strong. And once you start rolling all these houses into these farm fields, you're going to ruin the whole character of the area, and you're ruining the whole rural characteristics, which ruins the history. And I could move. People go up KK, you think you could run your ATV or your UTV up KK? No, you can't. But we can run down 94 in Defiance and Augusta. And once we start 3-acre subdivision, we moved it to 5 acres, so we had more growth, so the septic tanks would perform better. And we didn't have all these folks out here. And in this rural community, in St. Paul and St. Joe and I know some folks think, well, 3 acres, okay. It's just too much growth in my view. And people always say, well, you got to have progress. Well, you know what? Progress is sometimes slowing down the growth. That's progress. And it's not just ruining everything and cutting down every tree and plowing over every farm field. And so I think this is a real bad pattern, because those 3-acre lots were done before the '06 ordinance, and there was a vision that a lot of us had for having 5-acre lots. And I know I got another 3-acre lot subdivision coming up here in a little bit, but it's way on in. It's on Highway N, so there's a difference. There's a pattern. But this is pretty far from the city, so. And I'm going to defer to Joe, but I just think it's a really bad path to take here.
I'm going to tell you, if we don't do this, you're going to put the county at a disadvantage in respect to the cities of St. Paul, Josephville, and Flint Hill, because they all allow 3 acres. I grew up on a 3-acre tract down Highway K. I mean, 3 acres still can maintain a country feel. And this particular gentleman that's doing this development also has 5-acre tract developments too in my district. And the happy medium, what we're finding, you're going to see a lot more. There's 6,000 acres of developable ground up there, and you're going to see more of these coming through. But the consensus is 5-acre minor plot subdivisions with private roads that are maintained by the residents, which we'll have some of those in the more rural areas. 3-acre developments like this with paved streets, you'll see $500,000 to $1 million homes going in on those sites, okay? And then there also are 1-acre developments where there's public water and sewer. And you'll see those mostly around St. Paul, and some of them, Flint Hill allows 1/2-acre lots. So, I mean, this is This is as good as it gets for development in that area. It's a paved lot subdivision with 3-acre lots. The applicant could have applied for 5-acre lots with gravel roads, but I talked to the folks I talked to at Birdsong Meadows. I said, I have a brand-new 3-acre lot subdivision going across the street from my home in St. Paul, and I'd much rather have a paved lot subdivision going in across the street from me than a gravel road going across the street from me. So in some respects, I think this is preferable to a 5-acre development in that regard.
Just regard to that, though, we had that 900 acres down on 94, and every developer called and wanted to do 3-acre lots. I told them it's 5-acre zoning, and that's the way it is. Lombardo bought it, and they did 5-acre lots, and they had 15 lots on 5-acre on the whole piece, and they had 33 applications within a week. They sold them like that. So people do want 5 acres.
Yeah, we get both in my district.
Yeah.
But this one being it's nestled next to a 3-acre tract, and the folks in the 3-acre tract really don't have much of a objection. As far as Freemuth Road goes, it's a pretty sleepy road. Now, that's going to change when we open a county park there down the road. But for right now, I've been at this property several different times in the last couple of weeks, and you might wait 5 or 10 minutes before you see a car. So it's a typical St. Paul road.
Can we move on then to the next bill
Yes,
for
by all
introduction?
means.
I think that's number 5057.
Bill number 5057, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 22-03.
Any discussion on that bill?
I just want to say, I don't want to, people are going to say, well, you're contradicting yourself. This is a 3-acre subdivision. But I will tell you, no, I'm not, and I'll explain to you. My theory is this is on Highway N, which is real close to Winsville and O'Fallon. So I'm going to do my best to throw up a dam of the city so they can't come into unincorporated county and start developing it with 10,000 square foot lots. So to me, this is a good thing. And that's you know, with cities comes growth and rules and regulations and too much government, and we just don't need it out there.
Well, I'll do the mapping, but I'll bet you that the property in my district is just as close to Winsville and O'Fallon as this property is.
Yeah, do the math.
No
yeah.
gambling allowed in the town.
Yeah.
Okay, all of these bills will be voted on at our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight?
April 25th.
April 25th, okay.
Plus, this is 30 acres or something. It's 30 is a lot smaller without a lot more growth potential with the piece. So that's another reason. But
Moving on to bill number 5058.
Bill number 5058, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri approving the Quail Ridge preliminary plat.
Madam Chairman?
Same situation.
Yeah, this was turned down by planning and zoning by a 4-4 vote. They split on this one.
Right.
And Randy Weber is here, and I'd like to
Not
call
Randy.
him. I'm
Randy's
sorry.
not
Okay, I made you a lot older than you really are. This is Drew, and he would like to speak on this one.
Good evening, Mr. Weber.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Like you said, my name's Drew Weber with Hamilton Weber. I'm Randy's better-looking nephew, and I'm here to talk about bills 5056 and 5058. And I'd like to thank Mr. Cronin for his comments, and he I think, adequately encapsulated some of our thoughts and responses to the concerns about this project. There's just a few more things that I'd like to mention and point out. As Mr. Cronin, would it be possible to bring those maps back up? That would be helpful. But as Mr. Cronin indicated, there are 3-acre minimum subdivisions
Can we get the
directly
map
north.
back up? That's,
Yeah,
that one?
there we go.
Okay,
Perfect.
there you
Yep,
go.
that's
Thank you.
perfect.
Okay.
There's 3-acre lots directly north and directly south of this property. And I think that's for a reason. You know, the county has a master plan, and every master plan has a land use plan in it. And so if you look, and the county updates it about every 5 years. So if you look at Master Plan 2020, on its future land use map, it has this parcel as RR, rural residential. And then if you go to the current one now, Master Plan 3030, it's the same thing. So the county's been consistent that for this area, the goal is rural residential, which is 3-acre lots. So that's, I know some of the residents talked about preserving farmland and other issues generally in the master plan, but again, you have a specific land use plan that specifically calls for this lot to be zoned RR, or this area. I want to address some of the traffic concerns as well. A lot of the comments in your packet and comments of the Planning and Zoning Commission were from people who lived off Eisenbath Road. And I think maybe there was some confusion about possible entrances to Eisenbath because the property owner, he put a gate near Eisenbath Road, and I think some people thought, oh, that means there's going to be a future future connection to the subdivision. No, he just has a big RV, and he's got kind of it looks like gravel road that connects to Eisenbath Road, but people were driving onto his property. So he put a gate in that's far enough back that he can pull his RV up off the road, open the gate, and then access the rest of the property. That has nothing to do with this development. This development is solely access to Freymuth Road. It's 22 homes. So if you ask a traffic engineer, they say an average home is going to have 2 or 3 cars, right? So that means a trip for each car in the morning, a trip for each car in the afternoon over a 2-hour time frame. So if you're talking about 40, 45, 50 car trips, that's 1 car every couple minutes, which is not obviously a significant traffic burden or a significant increase in the burden on the schools. And if there's 22 homes, there may be a couple children in each home that may be school age and that may go to public school. But so if you're adding a couple dozen children across a wide range of ages, that's also not going to unduly burden the schools in the area. Mr. Cronin addressed drainage. I don't know that I have anything else to add unless anyone has questions, but I do think it's also worth mentioning again that one benefit of these 3-acre lots is the paved streets. This isn't going to be a gravel street subdivision. It is a paved street subdivision, and it's going to mimic the subdivision above and the subdivision below. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'd ask that you approve the rezoning and the preliminary plat.
Any questions for Mr. Weber? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Give our regards to Uncle Randy. Final bill for introduction is 5059.
Bill number 5059, requested by Kurt Friz, sponsored by Nancy Schneider, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget as adopted by ordinance 21-096, as amended, for positions within the criminal investigations, operational support, and administrative services divisions of the Police Department of St. Charles County.
Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, that concludes the bills for introduction. Is there any action on any of the tabled bills? Hearing none, are there any announcements or miscellaneous matters before we adjourn?
Just 2 words. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk.
Oh, no.
I just had to throw out that for you from Mizzou.
Is there a rebuttal to that from any Mizzou graduates? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, I would just like to say late happy birthday yesterday to Claire and to Joanne.
Oh.
So happy birthday to both of you.
Yeah, congratulations.
And I'll second Mr. Hollander's motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Okay, thank you. Thanks. I didn't.
I heard it, but